Let us offer our consecration to the Lord. Lord, we offer up to you this day, and we ask that your name be glorified. And we thank you for all that you are doing through us. We ask that you may open us more and more to your grace. We ask that we may let go of any obstacle to your grace, and we ask that we may come and serve you and lead and seek to follow you in all that we do. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Well, today, during the octave of Christmas, is a very interesting day, and a solemn day as well. And I guess a couple years ago, it wasn't celebrated because just like with St. Stephen, it fell on a Sunday, and therefore I can't remember whether it got we didn't celebrate it, or it got moved to the next day. I can't remember. But anyway, today is the Feast of the Holy Innocents, the martyrs. Now, if by chance you don't know who the Holy Innocents are, in the story, which we can find there in the Gospel, is what happens is Herod gets tipped off by the Magi. Now, something I should mention to you. This is part of the story of Matthew, and there's a powerful narrative there, and it also has profound, deeper spiritual meanings in it. For example, I do a whole homily on this. But for example, the Magi visit Jesus, and after they visit Jesus, they are told to go home by a different route. Well, that's a symbol. That means anyone who encounters Jesus, their life changes, and their life follows a different track. And so it's that whole story, which actually I always talk about on Epiphany, is just profound. There were just so many symbolic aspects to it. Another one, of course, is that the Magi they're not Jews. They're not from Judah. They're not from the former territory of Israel, which is now the present territory of Israel. They are actually they're pagans, and they come to worship this child who they recognize the new king. Well, that's a sign of something that is proclaimed by the prophets throughout the Old Testament. There will come a time that all the world will worship the God of the Jews in Jerusalem. And that's essentially all this stuff is very symbolic. Well, anyway, they tip off Herod that there is this new king who was just born. Now, all of us have lived during this time that we know that there are certain cultures that if the king is informed that there is a new king, that new king will be eliminated as soon as possible. The king does not like competition. By the way, some business organizations work the same way. Granted, they're not going to go out and kill everyone that is part of the organization, but they will do everything they can. Usually they are large companies, and they will do everything they can to get that person, or that company rather, that's trying to move on their territory completely eliminated, to put that company out of business completely, stay out of our territory. So it's something that is that happens not only in the context of, in this case, monarchies. It happens in the context of business too. Obviously not to the same dramatic level that it happens in the case of Herod. Do understand that King Herod is definitely one of the meanest human beings on the face of the earth. He is just there. Meanest, evil, you name it. There are times that I like to mention, you take the worst of all dictators in the history of the human race, especially over the past, several hundred years. And they may say, look, we were bad, but we weren't Herod, which may or may not have been true. But the understanding is that both of the Herods, the father who was the king at the time of Jesus' birth, so that's the father, and the son who was the king at the time of Jesus' death and resurrection, both of them were equally evil. So how you describe one is how you can describe the other. They were just absolutely evil human beings. So once they learn that there is this other king that has been born, this absolutely evil human being who is the father, King Herod, has decided that there is only one way to make sure that his throne is not challenged, and that is to ensure that that king does not live. So he sends out an order that makes it clear that every male child under the age of 2 needs to be killed. And those are the holy innocents, and they are considered martyrs because they died for the faith, in a sense. Even though they obviously didn't believe yet, so to speak, or just learning to believe, but they died because of Jesus. And so it's a fascinating reality, and that's the day we celebrate today. Oftentimes, it's used as a recognition of those who have died through abortion. So we look at that as well, the children that have died through abortion. So this is that unique day. But it's remembering those children that Herod demanded be destroyed because one of them may threaten his throne. So you can get a general idea of just absolutely how completely evil King Herod was, and his son was equally evil. Just these evil human beings. I'm not sure which one of them was. I think it was the second. The son died a horrible death where everything on his body was itchy, and so it was just a terror. I think it was the son. But anyway, they were equally just evil people. We're going to talk more on the other side of the break. You're listening to the St. Anthony Overnight from St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts, right here on WEZE 590 AM. And you can also hear us at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. We'll be right back right after this. We are presently in the process of evaluating the effectiveness of our programming for our mission at St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. In a few weeks, we have to decide whether to renew our contract for another year. So, we need your feedback. Are these programs helping you become stronger in your faith? Have these programs affected your relationship with Christ? Please send any comment to us through CatholicAudiomedia.com/contact. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com/contact. You may also call us using the number listed there, 617-297-7452. That's 617-297-7452. You can even write to us at St. Anthony Parish, 43 Holton Street, Allston, Massachusetts, 02134. That's St. Anthony Parish, 43 Holton Street, Allston, Massachusetts, 02134. Every comment will be evaluated as we make the decision whether to renew for a new year. And don't forget our website at CatholicAudiomedia.com, where you can check out our website. You can check out the archives of the show. You can also check out our Substack newsletter. Check out all kinds of things over there at CatholicAudiomedia.com. And don't forget, if you sit down and you write a comment right now, and you send that comment to me, as you heard, from either CatholicAudiomedia.com/contact or StAnthonyAlston.org, and send a comment through there. People have been doing that. Keep in mind that your comment is more than one, because what it essentially does is you sat down and wrote what other people also wanted to do, but they didn't get around to doing it. So it really has more weight than just one, and we appreciate that. So we're talking about the holy innocents. And one of the things to understand is really, it's amazing how absolutely evil the Herods were. And we can see that he ordered that all these children be killed in order that, in fact, he can eliminate this king that was supposed to threaten his throne. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is you're never going to win a battle against God. So, obviously, Jesus survives. Obviously, he comes in at the time of his son. But we also want to know something else, or want to talk about something else. And I mentioned this in my homily a couple of weeks ago. One of the effects of the holy innocents was Zechariah was murdered. According to legend, Zechariah was murdered by Herod's men. And the reason why is he would not tell the Herod's men where John was, who obviously would have been one of the victims. So because he refused to say where John was, he was murdered in the temple. Now, as I said the other day, his mother died of natural causes because remember, both of them were older. So John was brought up in the desert. And as I said the other day, he was practically a feral child. So he too is an effect of this holy innocence. And we can understand that concept, that whole thing about power, doing everything he can to stay in power, even going out and destroying every male child under the age of 2 in that area. Now, the other thing to keep in mind when we think about that is all these, he sends out these orders. Well, there's a point where you can say, why did people follow the orders? And the answer is simple, because if they didn't follow the orders, Herod would be even more vicious against them. So it was under this huge threat that they would do it. There are cases of dictators who make these horrible things, and then finally when the dictator is in a vulnerable position and he demands that he be protected, his soldiers will come in and kill him. Someone told me about the Ceausescus, that apparently when they were captured and just before they were executed, apparently the Ceausescu dictator, he kept pushing some button on his watch that was calling for his security to come by. And at that point, he was in that vulnerable position. He was a vicious dictator, and they just, I don't know what they did, but they certainly did not come to his rescue. And we see something similar in, I believe, the son, Herod the son, where he wanted to set up a system that when he died, people would cry. Because the father and the son are so identical. I think it's the son. It could have been the father. But they're identical. And so he wanted to set up a system that when he died, people would cry. And he knew that no one would cry when he died because he was a evil human being. So what he did is he rounded up all the popular people in Capernaum, the really super popular. It'd be like going into Hollywood and rounding up all the A-list actors, with the instructions that when he died, they were to be killed too, so that people would cry when he died. That was Herod. And what happens is, again, a vulnerable position, he dies, but once he dies, that's it. And at that point, the people are expected to be killed too, and the soldiers come by, open up the doors, and say, you're free, because they were just waiting for him to die anyway. So it's a fascinating story, these vicious dictators, but once they become vulnerable, their own people will turn on them. Their own men that they rely on for security will turn on them. And as I said, you see that in the Ceausescus, you see that in, I believe, the Herod, the younger Herod, who is king when Jesus is when Jesus' death and resurrection. But you see that, and this is what you learn of this absolutely vicious dictator, Herod. Have a blessed day. In Cristo vivimos.